The sun hadn't yet fully cleared the horizon when Mrs. Irene Miller felt the SUV come to a halt. At 73, with her silver hair pinned in a simple bun and hands weathered by a lifetime of labor, she peered through the fogged window. Outside, she saw only an empty county road, red Texas dust, barbed wire fencing, and the heavy silence of the plains. Her daughter Madison kept her hands tight on the steering wheel, refusing to look back. Ryan, the son-in-law, got out and opened the back door. "Irene, I don't understand. What's happening?" Her voice trembled, but she still carried herself with dignity. Ryan avoided her gaze. "You're going to stay here for a while. Someone is coming to pick you up." A lie. Irene knew a lie when she heard one. She had raised 3 children alone after her husband died in an industrial accident at the mill. She had worked as a cook, a laundress, and a housekeeper. She knew the weight of unspoken truths. "Madison, please." "Honey, what did I do?" Silence. Ryan grabbed a plastic trash bag from the seat and set it on the dirt. Inside were a few old clothes, a thin quilt, and a half-empty bottle of water. "You have to understand," Ryan snapped. "We're drowning. The mortgage, the car payments, the kids' private school. We just can't afford you anymore." Irene's legs felt weak as she stepped onto the dry earth. The hot morning wind kicked up dust around her. "I worked my whole life for you. I gave you everything I had." Her voice broke. Madison finally turned her head. Her eyes were bloodshot, but her expression was cold. "You've always been a burden, Mom. You never help. You're just another bill to pay." The words cut deeper than any knife. Ryan got back in the car. The engine roared. Madison looked one last time in the rearview mirror and floored it, leaving a cloud of red dust that swallowed Irene whole. She stood there, clutching her trash bag as the sound of the engine faded into the distance. The silence returned, broken only by the distant call of a hawk and the wind whistling through the fence. Irene looked both ways. No houses. No gas stations. Just cracked asphalt, dry brush, and a vast sky beginning to brighten. She sat on the shoulder of the road, her knees aching, and opened her water bottle. She drank slowly, knowing she had to make it last. Tears came, but she wiped them away with a flash of anger. "I am not going to die out here. Not like this." If this story is touching your heart, please subscribe to our channel and leave a like so you don't miss any of our stories. Tell us in the comments which city you're watching from. The sun rose higher, turning the sky from orange to a bright, unforgiving blue. The heat began to press down. Irene draped the quilt over her head for shade and waited. 1 hour passed, then 2. No cars. She began to walk, dragging her feet along the shoulder. Every step was a battle. Her back complained and her joints throbbed, but she kept going. She thought about her kids. Madison, the eldest, had always been the harshest. Ever since she married Ryan, she had changed. The man was stingy and controlled every cent. Irene had lived with them for 2 years, ever since her blood pressure worsened and she couldn't work anymore. She slept on a pull-out couch, helped with the cleaning, and watched the grandkids, but it was never enough. Madison repeated Ryan's words like they were gospel. "You don't contribute anything." As if 60 years of work didn't count. As if raising 3 kids alone wasn't contribution enough. Irene stopped to rest under a withered mesquite tree. The sun was now implacable. Suddenly she heard a sound, a deep, low rumble. She struggled to her feet as a white Ford F-150 approached. It was large and clean, a serious ranch truck. The truck slowed and pulled over. The window rolled down. The man at the wheel looked to be in his late 60s, with well-cut gray hair, a plaid button-down with the sleeves rolled up, and a Stetson hat on the seat beside him. His face was lined by the sun, but his eyes were gentle. "Are you all right, ma'am?" His voice was firm but concerned. Irene couldn't find her words at first. I'm just trying to get somewhere." The man looked at her plastic bag, the quilt, and the empty road. "There isn't anything for miles out here. How long have you been alone?" "Since dawn." He shut off the engine and stepped out. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with boots stained by red earth. "My name is Al Thompson. I have a ranch about 10 miles up. Do you need a lift? I can take you to town or wherever you need to go." Irene looked at him. She was afraid to trust, but she knew she had no choice. "I'd appreciate that. Thank you." Al took her bag and put it in the truck bed. He opened the passenger door for her. Irene sank into the seat, feeling the blast of the air conditioning against her sweat-soaked back. "You have family around here?" Al asked as he started the truck. Irene looked out the window. "No, I don't have any family." The lie hurt, but it was easier than the truth. Al didn't push. He turned on the radio classic country playing softly and drove. Irene closed her eyes and for the first time in hours, breathed. "You hungry?" Al asked after a while. Her stomach growled before she could answer. Al gave a small smile. "I'll take you to the ranch first. My wife Helen always cooks enough for an army. You eat, rest a bit, and then I'll take you wherever you need." "You don't have to do that," Irene whispered. It's no trouble. And you're in no condition to be wandering around in this heat. They passed through a large wooden gate with a sign, Street Clare Ranch. The house appeared on the horizon, a beautiful white farmhouse with a wraparound porch and rocking chairs. Al parked and a woman stepped out of the house. She looked to be in her late 50s, hair tied back in a ponytail, wearing a floral apron and a wide smile. Al, you're late, I was starting to. She stopped when she saw Irene. Helen, I'm sorry I didn't get your name. Irene. My name is Irene. Helen rushed down the porch steps, her eyes full of concern. Oh my goodness, honey, are you okay? What happened? Al gave her a quick look that said it all. Helen took Irene's hand. Come inside. You're going to take a hot shower and get some food in you. We'll talk later, okay? The house was spacious and smelled of fresh coffee and cedar. Everything was spotless but felt lived in. Helen showed her to a bathroom with fluffy towels and high-end soap. Irene looked in the mirror and didn't recognize herself. She was covered in dust, her eyes were sunken. She stepped into the shower and let the hot water wash away the dirt. She cried there where no one could hear, letting the grief out with the grime. When she came out, Helen had left clean clothes on a chair, soft leggings, and a fresh cotton shirt. Irene dressed and walked into the kitchen. The smell of pot roast and herbs filled the air. Sit down, Irene, Helen said, pointing to a heavy oak table. Al was at the sink, washing his hands. Helen set a plate down, roast beef, mashed potatoes, green beans, and a side of cornbread. Irene ate in silence every bite, feeling like a miracle. Irene, Al said gently, you don't have to tell us anything, but we're here if you need help. Irene wiped her mouth. My daughter left me on the road this morning. Said I was a burden. Said they couldn't afford me. The words were flat, devoid of emotion. Helen pressed a hand to her chest. That is heartbreaking. How could a daughter do that? She has 2 kids. Her husband. He doesn't work steady. I lived with them, helped with the house, but Irene trailed off. Do you have other children? Al asked. A son in Chicago. We haven't spoken in years. And a daughter in Houston, but she's barely scraping by herself. Al and Helen exchanged a look. Irene, Helen said you can stay here for now. We have a spare room. Rest for a few days. You don't even know me. You don't need to be known to be helped, Al said. Besides, this house is too big for the 2 of us. We could use the company. Irene felt the tears return, but these were different. Thank you. Thank you so much. The following weeks brought a routine Irene never expected. She woke early with Helen and helped make breakfast biscuits and gravy, fresh eggs, strong coffee. Al would come in from the barn with fresh milk. Irene started tending to the garden. Her hands used to work, recognized the soil. She pulled weeds, watered the tomatoes, and harvested lettuce. Her body ached at the end of the day, but it was a good ache. Helen treated her like an equal. They talked while doing laundry or sewing. Irene, do you know how to make old-fashioned cornbread? Mine always comes out dry. They spent afternoons in the kitchen, laughing, sharing stories. Irene realized she was smiling, really smiling for the first time in years. One afternoon, Al stood with her in the garden. You've got a green thumb, Irene. I've always loved it. I used to have a little patch back when I had my own house. Why don't you have it anymore? I sold the house to pay off my youngest son's debts. He promised to pay me back, but he never did. Al nodded without judgment. Sometimes we give too much. I thought if I gave everything they'd value me, Irene said, wiping dirt from her hands. But that's not how it works, is it? No, Al said. People value what they earn, not what they get for free. One weekend, Al took her into town. It was a small Texas town where everyone knew everyone. They stopped at a local boutique. Irene, this is my friend, Carrie, Al said. She runs this shop. Carrie was an energetic woman in her 60s. Helen told me a bit about you, Irene. She says you're a hard worker. I'm actually looking for someone to help me out 3 days a week. Just helping customers, keeping things organized. It's a small salary, but it's honest work. Would you be interested? Irene's heart skipped. To work again, to have her own money, I'd love to, Carrie. Irene became a staple at the boutique. She was great with customers, patient and kind. She started saving her money in an old tin can under her bed. One day, Al made a proposal. Irene, you can stay in the main house as long as you want, but there's a small guest cottage on the back of the property. It's private, has its own little kitchen. If you want your own space, it's yours. I'll take it, Irene said, but I want to pay rent. You don't have to. I need to, Al. For me. They agreed on a symbolic amount. Moving into her own cottage was the proudest day of her life. She decorated it with things she bought with her own paycheck. Months passed. Irene was thriving. She started a craft collective at the boutique, helping local elderly women sell their handmade quilts and jams. She was making a difference in the community. She finally called her son James Jr. in Chicago. Mom, is that you? His voice was tired. Madison told me you went to a nursing home and didn't want visitors. That was a lie, James. She told him the truth. James was silent for a long time. Mom, I didn't know. If I'd known, I would have come for you. I know, son, but I'm okay now. I have a job, a home, and friends who are more like family than my own blood. James visited a few months later. He was moved to tears seeing how his mother had rebuilt her life. Even Madison eventually reached out, crying and apologizing after her own husband Ryan left her for a younger woman. Irene forgave her, but she didn't go back. I spent my life being a mother and a worker for others, she told Madison. Now I'm living for Irene. A year after being left on the road, James got married at the ranch. Al and Helen hosted the ceremony by the lake. Irene was the guest of honor, wearing a beautiful blue dress she'd bought herself. As the sun set over the Texas hills, Al raised a toast. To family, the one we're born with and the one we choose. To Irene, who reminded us that it's never too late to start over. Irene looked at the moon reflecting in the ranch pond. She had been abandoned on a desert road, but that abandonment had been her liberation. She had lost everything only to find herself. She took a sip of her champagne and smiled. The red dust of the road was far behind her now. She was finally home. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe and leave a comment. Remember, it is never too late to reclaim your dignity. Until the next story.